Stop whining. Let me say that again. Stop whining. Because every time you complain about where you are, you're announcing to the world that you've forgotten where you're going. Life is not required to be easy. It is required to be lived. And the truth is, nobody is coming to rescue you. Your breakthrough does not respond to tears, excuses, or complaints. It responds to action. The moment you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? You step into your power. Let me tell you something real. I've met people with half the resources, half the education, and half the connections who still made it to the top. You know why? Because they refused to sit in the corner and cry about what they didn't have. They got up every single day and worked with what they had. See, whining is comfortable. Winning is not. Winning demands discipline when motivation disappears. Winning demands faith when results don't show up on your timeline. I remember a man who used to complain every morning about his job, his pay, his life. Same story, different day. One day he decided to do something radical. He stopped talking about how unfair life was and started showing up early, learning more, sharpening his skills, and taking responsibility. Nobody clapped for him at first. Nobody noticed the change. But months later, opportunity noticed. See, success is always watching how you behave when no one is rewarding you. Here's the hard truth most people don't want to hear. Whining keeps you stuck because it trains your mind to look for sympathy instead of solutions. The moment you stop whining, your mind becomes sharper. You start seeing doors instead of walls. You start hearing instructions instead of excuses. God doesn't bless excuses, He blesses effort. Faith without work is just noise. Understand this, every winner you admire was once tired, confused, and scared. The difference is they didn't quit in the middle of discomfort. They pushed through it. They understood that pain is temporary, but quitting lasts forever. Your situation is not a life sentence, it's a classroom. Learn the lesson, stop complaining about the test, and pass it. Complaining feels natural because it gives the illusion of relief, but in reality, it quietly steals your power. The moment you complain about your situation, you hand control of your life to external circumstances. You start blaming the economy, the past, people, luck, or timing. And without realizing it, you step away from responsibility. Ownership is uncomfortable because it forces you to look in the mirror and admit that where you are right now is a result of choices you made or choices you avoided. That realization can sting, but it is also the doorway to freedom. The second you accept ownership, you stop waiting for life to change and start changing your life. Here's a hard truth most people avoid. Nobody owes you understanding, sympathy, or success. The world rewards responsibility, not excuses. You can complain about how unfair things are, or you can take control of what you can influence today. Ownership doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing that you have the final say in how you respond. When you stop complaining, your energy shifts from emotional release to productive action. You begin asking better questions like, what can I do right now? And how do I improve from here? Those questions build momentum. Think about this for a moment. Every time you complain, you are rehearsing failure. Your mind listens to your words. When you constantly say, I can't, it's too hard, or it's not my fault, your brain accepts that as instruction. Ownership rewires your thinking. It replaces excuses with accountability and transforms frustration into strategy. The most successful people didn't have fewer problems, they had stronger ownership. They refused to give their power away by blaming circumstances. Ownership also demands emotional maturity. It means you stop reacting and start responding. Reacting keeps you trapped in the moment. Responding moves you forward. When life hits hard, and it will, whining might feel justified, but it does nothing to improve your position. Owning your response forces you to rise above emotion and act with purpose. That's where leadership is born, even if you're only leading yourself at first. There's a powerful shift that happens when you take ownership. You stop seeking validation from others. You no longer need people to agree with your struggle to move forward. You don't need applause to work hard. You don't need sympathy to stay disciplined. You understand that progress is personal and responsibility is private. That mindset alone separates winners from the rest. Ownership also builds resilience. When you accept responsibility, setbacks no longer break you because you don't see them as punishment. You see them as feedback. Instead of saying, why does this keep happening to me? You say, what is this teaching me? That single shift turns obstacles into training grounds. Growth stops being accidental and becomes intentional. Here's the hook most people miss. Taking ownership doesn't limit you. It liberates you. Complaining keeps you stuck in the past, but ownership anchors you in the present where real power exists. You can't change yesterday, but you can dominate today. The moment you stop blaming, you start building. The moment you stop whining, you start winning. Ownership is the foundation of confidence, discipline, and success, because when you fully accept responsibility for your life, nothing and no one can control your future except you. Motivation is exciting, but it is unreliable. It shows up when things feel good and disappears the moment discomfort walks in. Discipline, on the other hand, is quiet, steady, and faithful. It does not ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done. If you wait for motivation to carry you through life, you will spend more time starting than finishing. Discipline is what carries you forward on the days when your energy is low, your confidence is shaken, and your results are invisible. Here's a truth most people learn too late. Winners are not more motivated than everyone else. They are more disciplined. They have trained themselves to move even when their emotions say stop. They understand that feelings change, but commitments must remain. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. Every time you do what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it, you strengthen trust in yourself. That trust becomes confidence, and confidence creates consistency. Think about how many dreams die because people only work when they feel inspired. Inspiration is temporary, but habits are permanent. Discipline turns your goals into routines. It removes the daily debate of, should I do this? And replace it with, this is who I am. When action becomes identity, progress becomes automatic. That is when discipline takes you places motivation never could. Discipline also teaches patience. Motivation wants quick results, fast rewards, and immediate validation. Discipline understands that real growth is slow and often silent. It shows up when no one is watching, when there is no applause, and when progress feels painfully small. That quiet work is what separates those who talk about success from those who live it. The grind you don't post is the victory you eventually enjoy. There will be days when quitting feels logical, days when rest feels earned and excuses sound reasonable. Discipline is the voice that reminds you why you started when the excitement fades. It is the decision to keep going, not because it's easy, but because stopping costs more. Discipline forces you to confront discomfort instead of escaping it, and that confrontation builds strength you cannot develop any other way. Here's the hook most people overlook. Discipline creates freedom. At first it feels restrictive, like rules and routines are holding you back. But over time, discipline gives you options. It gives you skills, credibility, and control over your life. The disciplined person can choose rest without guilt, success without fear, and growth without chaos. Motivation gives you moments. Discipline gives you mastery. Every small disciplined action compounds. One early morning, one focused hour, one choice to stay consistent instead of comfortable. Those moments stack up and quietly reshape your future. You may not feel powerful in the beginning, but discipline does not require confidence to start. It creates confidence through repetition. When motivation fails, discipline steps in and keeps the promise you made to yourself alive. Pain has a way of making people question their path. The moment things get uncomfortable, doubt starts whispering that maybe this isn't meant for you. Maybe you should slow down. Maybe you should quit. But discomfort is not a warning sign. It is a confirmation that growth is happening. Nothing expands without pressure. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Character doesn't form without challenge, and success never arrives without sacrifice. If it hurts, it means something is being stretched that has never been stretched before. Most people misunderstand pain because they were never taught how to use it. They see struggle as failure instead of feedback. Pain is information. It reveals your weak points, exposes your limits, and shows you exactly where growth is required. When you avoid discomfort, you avoid development. The very thing you're running from is often the thing that will elevate you if you face it head on. Growth doesn't ask for permission, it demands endurance. Think about this. Every level you want to reach requires a version of you that doesn't exist yet. That version can only be built through pressure. Comfort preserves who you are. Pain transforms who you become. When life applies pressure, it is not trying to break you, it is trying to shape you. The question is not whether pain will come, but whether you will use it or let it use you. Here's the hook most people miss. Quitting doesn't remove pain, it postpones it. Avoiding the struggle today guarantees a deeper regret tomorrow. The pain of discipline lasts a moment, but the pain of staying stuck echoes for years. When you push through discomfort, you build resilience. When you escape it, you build fear. Every time you survive a hard season, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than you believed. Pain also sharpens focus. When everything is easy, effort becomes casual. When things are hard, priorities become clear. Discomfort strips away distractions and forces you to confront what truly matters. That clarity is powerful. It teaches you to move with intention instead of emotion. You stop reacting and start deciding. That's when growth becomes intentional instead of accidental. There will be moments when the wait feels unfair, when progress seems slow and the struggle feels personal. But pain is not personal, it is universal. Every person who has achieved something meaningful has paid a price in discomfort. The difference is not in who suffered less, but in who refused to surrender to it. Pain tests your commitment. It asks how badly you want what you say you want. When you reframe pain as training, everything changes. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this preparing me for? That shift turns hardship into purpose. You stop seeing pain as an enemy and start seeing it as a coach. It pushes you beyond what feels possible and introduces you to what is actually available to you. Growth hurts, but staying the same costs far more. At some point, every person has to face a reality that changes everything. Nobody's coming to save you. No cavalry is riding in, no perfect timing is waiting around the corner, and no one else is responsible for fixing what you tolerate. This realization can feel heavy at first, even uncomfortable, because it removes excuses. But it is also one of the most empowering truths you will ever accept. The moment you stop waiting for rescue is the moment you start building your own strength. Many people waste years hoping for a break, a connection, or permission to move forward. They wait for someone to notice their potential, to give them a chance to open a door. But opportunity rarely announces itself. It responds to preparation and initiative. When you accept that no one is coming, you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. That shift alone changes how you move, how you think, and how you work. Here's the hook most people don't expect. Self-reliance is not loneliness, it is leadership. When you stop expecting others to carry you, you discover how capable you actually are. You learn to solve problems instead of explaining them. You learn to adapt instead of complaining. Responsibility sharpens your instincts. It forces you to grow skills you never would have developed if someone else kept stepping in to save you. Waiting for help often feels safe because it delays risk. But safety is expensive. It costs you time, confidence, and momentum. When you rely on others to fix your situation, you also hand them control over your future. The disciplined individual understands that support is valuable, but dependence is dangerous. Help can assist you, but it cannot replace effort. No one can work for you, believe for you, or sacrifice for you. There will be moments when you feel overwhelmed, when the load feels too heavy to carry alone. That is not a signal to stop. It is a signal to become stronger. Strength is built by lifting what once felt impossible. Every challenge you handle without rescue adds another layer of confidence. You begin to trust yourself, and that trust is priceless. It becomes the foundation for bold decisions and sustained action. Accepting that nobody is coming also changes how you view setbacks. Instead of asking who failed you, you ask how to adjust. Instead of replaying disappointment, you design solutions. This mindset turns obstacles into assignments. You stop being emotionally attached to comfort and become committed to progress. That commitment separates those who survive from those who rise. There is power in knowing that your future is not dependent on someone else's approval or availability. When you take full responsibility, your actions become sharper and your standards rise. You no longer wait for motivation or validation. You act because action is required. That independence creates momentum, and momentum attracts opportunities that waiting never could. When you finally accept that no one is coming to save you, fear loses its grip. You realize that you've already been handling more than you thought you could. You stop underestimating your capacity and start expanding it. The day you stop waiting for rescue is the day you become your own breakthrough. Faith is powerful, but faith alone does not move anything unless it is partnered with action. Believing without doing creates comfort, not change. Many people say they have faith, but what they really have is hope without effort. Hope waits. Faith works. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is not what you believe. It's what you are willing to do consistently. Action is the evidence that faith is real. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If your faith never costs you effort, it's not faith, it's wishful thinking. Real faith requires movement, risk, and responsibility. You can pray for opportunities all day, but if you don't prepare yourself to handle them, nothing changes. Faith speaks, but action answers. The universe, success, and life itself respond to motion, not intention. Too many people confuse patience with passivity. They say they're waiting on the right moment, waiting on a sign, waiting on confirmation. But clarity comes after action, not before it. When you take a step, the next step reveals itself. Standing still while claiming faith is like expecting a harvest without planting seeds. Faith plants, action waters, results grow. Here's a hook most people ignore. Action strengthens belief. The more you move, the stronger your faith becomes. When you sit still, doubt grows louder. When you act, confidence grows stronger. Action silences fear because fear survives in inactivity. The moment you move, fear loses control. You stop imagining failure and start building experience. Faith without action also keeps people stuck in excuses. They say they trust the process, but they avoid the work. They believe in abundance, but they don't develop skills. They pray for change, but they repeat the same habits. Faith does not cancel discipline, it demands it. If you truly believe your future can be better, your actions must reflect that belief daily. Action also reveals seriousness. Life does not reward what you say you want. It responds to what you consistently pursue. When you take action, you send a message to yourself and to the world that you are committed. That commitment changes how opportunities align. Doors don't open for intentions, they open for effort. There will be moments when action feels risky. When you step out without guarantees, that's where faith is supposed to show up. Faith is not confidence in the outcome, it is commitment to the process. You move even when results are uncertain. You show up even when progress is slow. That courage to act without full assurance is where growth begins. Action also removes entitlement. Instead of expecting rewards, you earn progresses. Instead of waiting for miracles, you create momentum. Every step you take builds credibility. You begin to trust yourself more because you are no longer just talking, you are executing. That self-trust becomes a powerful force. Faith without action creates frustration because deep down you know you're capable of more. Action releases the tension. It aligns belief with behavior. When faith and action move together, effort feels meaningful, setbacks feel educational, and progress feels inevitable. Movement turns belief into results, and results strengthen belief even further. Consistency is the quiet force that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, and it doesn't seek attention, but it always delivers. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do by showing up every day. Big victories are rarely the result of one heroic moment. They are built through small, repeated actions that compound over time. When you commit to consistency, you stop chasing shortcuts and start trusting the process. Here's the hook most people miss. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Intensity burns bright and fades fast, but consistency burns slow and lasts long. Anyone can work hard for a week when emotions are high, but winners show up when excitement is gone. They work on the days that feel average, boring, and unremarkable. That's where the real separation happens. Consistency proves commitment, not just desire. Small efforts often feel insignificant in the moment. One workout doesn't transform a body. One focused hour doesn't build a career. One disciplined choice doesn't change a life. But repeated daily, those same actions quietly reshape everything. Consistency removes pressure because it doesn't demand perfection, only participation. You don't have to be great today, you just have to show up again. That mindset eliminates overwhelm and builds momentum. Consistency also builds identity. When you do something repeatedly, it stops being a task and becomes who you are. You stop forcing discipline and start living it. Your confidence grows not from results, but from reliability. You begin to trust yourself because you keep promises to yourself. That self-trust is rare, and it becomes a powerful advantage in a world full of inconsistency. There will be days when consistency feels pointless, when progress is invisible and effort feels wasted. Those days are tests, not tests of ability, but tests of commitment. The results you want are often delayed, not denied. Consistency teaches patience and faith in the unseen. It reminds you that growth is happening even when you can't measure it yet. Here's another hook. Consistency protects you from emotional decision-making. When you rely on routines instead of feelings, you remove excuses. You don't negotiate with your mood. You execute because it's time to execute. That stability creates progress even during chaos. While others stop and start, you keep moving. Consistency also compounds confidence. Every small win forces belief. Every repeated action strengthens skill. You don't wake up one day suddenly capable. You become capable by doing the work repeatedly. Mastery is not talent revealed, it's consistency applied. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. Most people quit too early because they expect fast validation. Consistency asks you to trust delayed rewards. It trains you to value growth over applause. When you keep going without immediate recognition, you build resilience. That resilience becomes your edge when pressure increases and expectations rise. Consistency turns effort into inevitability. When you refuse to stop, results have no choice but to show up. The timeline may change, but the outcome doesn't. Small daily actions done with intention accumulate into massive transformation. Consistency doesn't need motivation, it creates it. And when small efforts are honored daily, big victories stop being dreams and start becoming patterns. So today, make a decision. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Stop whining and start winning. Wake up with purpose. Move with intention. Speak life over your situation and put your feet to the work. Because when you stop complaining and start committing, something powerful happens. You stop being a victim of life and become the author of your destiny. And trust me, the moment you choose winning, life has no choice but to respond.